What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So my last video where I was working on the fuel pressure regulator for the Holley Sniper EFI, I swapped the internal regulator out for an external adjustable fuel pressure regulator, thinking that might fix my fueling issue, where apparently it didn't. Think I got to replace my fuel pump. But at the end of that video, I said, and the hits just keep on coming. Yeah, the hits just keep on coming. All right, so in this whole series of trying to get my Sniper EFI programmed and working with Dirty Side Gets Down, a fellow YouTuber, I was running into all kinds of issues. My map was all over the place. We couldn't figure that out. You know, the fueling issue I was working on, where it looks like my fuel pump, we were seeing the fuel flow go way up at times, way higher than what it should have. So I was thinking maybe let's replace the regulator. I relocated the fuel pump, and that's just been a whole debacle. During all that, there were times where I was seeing what seemed to me to be a lot of smoke coming out of the breather valve, or the breather on the passenger side valve cover. Not an excessive lot of smoke. It just, to me, seemed to be more than what I would think should be normal. And just, you know, having power issues, and just this thing was just running like garbage. I couldn't figure out why. So I started doing some research, I started looking into things, and yeah, that kind of led me to looking at the valves or the engine, something. So I ended up, once I decided I was going to order a new fuel pump because my fuel was still all over the place, I decided to do a compression check. So pulled all the plugs, labeled them all, started doing compression checks, and I started off on the driver's side. 150, 3 was a 70, so yeah, that's obviously right there wasn't good. Like 145, 150, but then I got to the passenger side. 2 and 4 were only about 20, if that. I mean, they were barely registering on the gauge. And then 6 was 150, 8 was 165. So yeah, obviously there's something going on right here. So pulled the valve cover to see if I could see anything. Everything looked okay. Everything was moving freely. You know, I didn't notice anything out of the ordinary. So then I hooked up my compressor. And I hooked up to spark plug hole number 4. Got it so that it was on the compression stroke. And sure enough, I had air coming out of spark plug hole number 2. In case you weren't aware, it's not supposed to do that. You shouldn't be able to put air into one and have it come out another. That's no bueno. So hopefully I'm only looking at a blown head gasket. I say hopefully like that's a good thing. I just really hope I didn't like blow out any piston rings or anything like that. I did bore scope the cylinders. Everything looks great in there. Didn't see any damage from maybe like a blown out piston ring or anything like that. You know, no scoring on the cylinder walls or anything. So yeah, let me show you what's going on with the whole air thing. All right, so I just made a little adapter here to plug my compressor in. I'm blowing in about like 20 or 30 psi of air. And I don't know how well you can hear that over my mic. I also got a fan running in the background. But, let me put my finger here. Listen. Yeah, that's not supposed to do that. So I guess the next step is going to be to start draining all the fluids, take the intake off, and pull this head. Of course, I still got to figure out what's going on with the driver's side, but let's get the passenger side figured out first. All right, guys, so I've got the head pretty much ready to come out. I got everything unbolted. The only thing I haven't been able to do is get the little drain plug out from the side of the head. So yeah, this is gonna make a bit of a mess. But I'm gonna set you guys up and get this head out of here and see if we can see what's going on. So yeah, I guess we can say the valve or the head gasket failed. Jesus. Wow. Huh. Interesting. So yeah, I think that that head gasket has a bit of a problem. So I've already started kind of inspecting the head and cleaning up some of the rough spots from this residue left behind from the head gasket. I still got to clean the block up, take a better look at that, see if there's anything wrong there. I don't think there is. I think this was just caused from this engine going so lean because of that fuel pump failing. Possibly, probably, my best guess, honestly. I don't see anything else wrong. So I'm just going to continue to clean things up, clean up all the mating surfaces of all the gaskets, clean up the block. And I've got my new filters on order, my new gaskets on order. I wanted to wait until I actually pulled the heads and pulled the intake so I can get the part numbers off those gaskets and just make sure I got the right ones. But yeah, so I'm just going to keep cleaning things up. And then what I'm probably going to do is put this head back on once I get the gasket set in. Then I'm going to pull the other head, just put this one back on just to have room to work. I got to figure out why that other cylinder 3, I got to figure out why that one's only running about half the compression as all the other good ones. So now it's just a bunch of cleaning. With my gasket set, should be here tomorrow. All right, so I got everything all cleaned up, and I finally received my new head gaskets. So got the one in place. You can go ahead and grab the head off the bench, get it dropped onto the block. All right, so I just figured I'd get the head installed. I wasn't gonna try to set up a camera. You guys didn't need to see me try to struggle at this. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be, getting the dowels lined up and getting this thing set in place. But the head's in, so now I can go ahead and just start bolting everything down. Now, when it comes to the head bolts, the ones that go inside by the valves, there are two different sizes, at least for this engine block, for the LA block. It may be the same for Magnums or other engines. Specifically for this one though, there are two different size, two different length head bolts. There's one long one, and that one actually goes right here. You can tell there's a raised area, a raised boss right there where that goes, and then these other ones will go in right here. Now, I'm gonna dip these, to start the fight, I'm gonna dip these threads in motor oil before running them in. Obviously, there's gonna be the argument, motor oil versus like ARP, bolt fluid, whatever the hell they call it. You do what you want to do. I'm just going to use motor oil. Let the fights begin. Also, before anyone goes and makes any kind of comment or anything, I did clean up all the bolt threads and all the bolt holes. Just ran a thread chaser down through all the holes, cleaned them all up. Same thing with the bolts. I wanted to make sure I got any old sealant, any old crap off of the bolts. Now, these bolts don't need any kind of sealant on them. They don't go into the water jacket at all. Two of the head bolts, the forward and the rearmost exhaust manifold bolts or header bolts, do go into the water jacket. So those will get thread sealant. But as far as all the head bolts, whether they be the ones up by the valves or the ones along the bottom, none of those go into the water jacket. All right, now that I got all the bolts run down finger tight, I'm gonna start torquing them. These get torqued to 95 foot-pounds. So I'm gonna start off at about 30, 35-ish, go up to, 50, 70, then 90. Starting in the middle, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Basically that kind of pattern. And we're just gonna work our way around, torquing down all the head bolts. I got the rocker shaft reinstalled. With this being a hydraulic roller cam, everything got adjusted to just 0 lash. I tried to put the rocker shaft back in just the way it came out. Purposely, when I took it out, I didn't adjust anything. I didn't loosen anything up, any of the rocker adjustments. I tried to put it back in without adjusting those. It was just too much of a pain, so I just loosened everything up, put the rocker shaft back in, and then readjusted all the push rods, everything to just 0 lash. But with this side all back together, I now get to pull the driver's side to figure out why cylinder 4 is only at about 70 compression, whereas everything else is at about 150, 160. So yeah, I get to do this all again on the driver's side.
So I got the driver's side head off. And once I did, I had to walk away. I needed some time to cope. I needed some time to come to terms with the horrors that I saw. If you have small children, cover their eyes, have them leave the room. It's not pretty. So, number 3 cylinder has decided to leave the chat. Yeah, now I get to try to locate one stroker piston.